This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope you'll just consider this a vitamin or a supplement for your mind, your heart, and your soul. Wherever you download podcasts from, would you mind subscribing to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a review, and it would be greatly appreciated. Today, let's discuss what separates you from others. How do you differentiate yourself from the crowd? Well, especially in the field of leadership, there are a lot of people who are posing as leaders, a lot of people who believe that they're leaders. So what separates leaders from each other? Let me give you a few things that I think you ought to consider today. Number one thing that will separate one leader from another is give more than what's expected. This is what separates all of us. There are some in life who are givers and there are some who are takers. And there are some who are clock watchers and are just waiting for the minute hand to strike 12 and it's time to go home, and they race out as fast as they can, hoping no one will stop them and ask them anything. The people who prove to be indispensable are the people who give more than's required. They just show up, do what's expected, do it with excellence. So don't just try for bare minimum. Try to be someone who goes over and above. If you think of positive experiences you've had at various places, it would be because someone on staff at a restaurant, an amusement park, a business of some sort, went above and beyond to help you and to meet your need. Those are the people that we never forget. We never lose sight of what they did for us. You and I can separate ourselves by becoming that kind of a person. Give more than's expected. Another area that will separate leaders from one another is you have to have grit. Every day is not easy. Everything does not go according to plan. Everything will not work like clockwork. And there are just certain times where you have to have a grit to you. You just have to slug through it. You just make up your mind, I'm going to do this. And even in the best of lives, there are times when you just have to grit your teeth and hold on and keep moving ahead. Grit seems to be one of those determining factors that separates leaders. The third thing that I believe differentiates leaders from each other is determination. Lots of people start well, have great intentions, have great plans, have talked about, dreamed about what they're going to do and how they're going to achieve what it is they're going to do. But at the first time something happens that's a little bit out of their control, or somehow they're thrown a curveball, they just sort of in frustration sit down, stop, quit. Be determined. When I was in college, I had no one in my family who had gone to college before me. It was an all-new experience. I guess I would say that I was raised in a home where we were culturally deprived. I didn't have some of the advantages that others had, so I'm not sure that very many in college would have seen or believed that I was going to do all of that much. But all of my life, I was determined that I was going to make a difference. I was determined that I was going to be all that God intended for me to be. And it doesn't matter if anyone else believes in you, and it doesn't matter what the crowd thinks. If you are determined to see it through, you will differentiate yourself from the crowd. The fourth one is like the last two, and that's perseverance. Sometimes you can outlast everyone. I heard a leader tell me one time that he had stayed where he was for such a long time, even though at times there were great difficulties. But he said, I outlasted my enemies. I stayed long enough that I outlasted them. Well, I'm not asking you to outlast your enemies, but what I am saying is what will differentiate you is if you just make up your mind, just determine yourself that I'm going to persevere. This too shall pass. You see, if you're a leader, You were called into tough places. You have been called upon. You have been chosen to be put in a position where you're going to make the difficult decisions that so many others do not want to make. And maybe right now you're going through a fiery trial. You're going through things that you never dreamed or imagined would happen to you. I've been there. And what you have to do is trust the Lord, and you just have to persevere. You have to be determined. You have to have grit, and you have to persevere, and you just have to hold on. The fifth thing that I believe differentiates leaders from one another is you need to start removing the word can't from your vocabulary. I can't do that. I can't read that book. I can't read that many books. I can't go back to school. I can't go to that seminar. I don't have the money or the time to go there. I could never do what someone else is doing. I could never do a podcast. I could never write a book. I can't do any of those things. And we just sort of prophesy over ourselves, doom and gloom. I can't do that. The other people have all of the breaks. I've had none of the breaks. Remove can't and at least try. There is no growth in life without stretching. There's no growth in life without a little struggle. There's no growth in life without moving into new territory, seeking to innovate and learn new things. And you can. Somewhere in your life, you didn't know how to do a lot of things that you now know how to do. You tried, you failed a few times, you fell down a couple of times, but you picked yourself up and you kept moving. No one wants to hear people continually telling what they can't do. Tell us what you can do. Tell us that you're going to try. If you're the leader, lead in making innovations and trying new things. The real thing that you need to think about that will separate you is do not become an isolated leader. There may not be anything more dangerous in the world than a leader who isolates his or herself and only consults with themselves. A self-made person is a mighty small individual. And isolation does not help us. We were built and created and made for relationship. Bad things happen when we will not get around people. If nothing else, we need the encouragement. We need the relational wealth that comes to us through other people and their ideas and their experiences and things that have happened in their life. And maybe you are predisposed to kind of being isolated. I'm not talking about an introvert. An introvert receives their energy from reading and meditating and being by themselves. I'm talking about people who just refuse to mix, refuse to get around other people. Isolation is always the enemy for a leader. You have to be consulting with people. You need relationships in order for your own mental, spiritual, physical, psychological health. And bad things happen when leaders start to isolate themselves. If you don't believe that's true, just get out the history book and you'll find the greatest, most paranoid leaders, and I mean great in paranoia. One of the things that happened somewhere along the line is they began to isolate themselves. The last one I'm going to share with you today that I believe separates and will differentiate you from others is be a giver. Don't be a leader just for what are people going to do for me, what perks are in this for me, how much can I benefit, but make your idea known that I am here to contribute to the betterment of people, the organizations where I serve, the business, the church, the not-for-profit. I am here to give of myself. I have received so much in my life that the only way that I adequately know how to say thank you is to be a giver, to give my time, to give my resources, to give my influence, to give my all for God, my community, my organization, my church, my business, whatever you're involved with. Differentiate yourself by being a giver. So remember, give more than is expected, have some grit, determination, and perseverance. Remove the word can't from your speech and your vocabulary. Don't live in isolation. Be with people. And don't be just a taker. Be a giver. Make your number one idea that I'm going to be a contributor. And if you'll do these things, you will be separated from the crowd. You will separate yourself from the crowd as a leader. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope today this has been a vitamin or a supplement for your mind, your heart, and your soul. Again, wherever you receive podcasts from, would you mind subscribing to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Please leave a rating and a review. And remember, leader, separate yourself. Give more than what's expected. Be a giver. Don't isolate yourself. You are making a difference where you are today. And until next time, have a blessed and great day.